Hello. Today I'm going to sing a song for you from the Peter, Paul and Mary. Where have all the flowers gone? Yeah. Well, whenever people are feeling down or whenever people are feeling unhappy, they are not recognizing that there is a way in which they deal with language which makes them feel unhappy. And so, when they would know that there is a way of dealing with language which would make them feel happy, then they could prevent that other way of dealing with language which makes them unhappy. So, as far as I am concerned, I know the way of dealing with language that makes me happy. And that's what I call embodied language. And the way of dealing with language which would also make me unhappy is, of course, disembodied language. And everybody is basically involved in this disembodied language, which we hear everywhere. People are worried, people are stressed, people are frustrated, people are upset, people are angry, people are hateful. And we hear hardly anybody like me who is expressing embodied language. Just listen to it. Just hear me out. Hear what I say. Hear how I sound. Feel what it is that I'm expressing. You've got to acknowledge that what I'm expressing, nobody expresses that. Nobody pays attention to that, but I do, because I know the difference between embodied language and disembodied language. What you hear now is my embodied language. I take time to be able to express and to explore my embodied language. I take time to enjoy, to hear, to also see to it that my embodied language is not just merely the way I talk with myself. No, it is also the way in which I instruct myself to live how I want to live. Yeah, I live this way. If I wouldn't live this way, I wouldn't be talking like this. I can only talk like this because I do live this way. And to live this way with continuous embodied language is to live the life of someone who has attained language enlightenment. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So, I feel very pleased, very satisfied, very thankful that I can do this. I wasn't always able to do this, but I am able to do this now. And I'm doing this right now. Yeah. And everybody who listens to this can hear this and can say for themselves, who in the world lets you hear about their embodied language like I do? I'm just asking you. Who is talking about this? There's nobody, no psychologists, no psychiatrists, no therapists, no trauma experts, no Buddhists, or no meditators, no people who are presumably enlightened. Nobody addresses the embodied language which I am addressing. The embodied language, which of course is a simple phenomenon which occurs because here I am being a speaker who hears his own sound. And so listening to yourself while you speak is the basis of embodied language. If you do not listen to yourself while you speak, you will not be able to have embodied language. And the reason that people are continuously, unknowingly involved in disembodied language is because they don't listen to themselves. And to listen to yourself, like I do right now, to listen to yourself only happens if we are not afraid, if we're not feeling threatened. I don't feel threatened. I am not afraid. That's why I can sound like this. That's why I can be totally calm. That's why I can be peaceful, undisturbed. And I can always be like this because I pay attention to this. I know what this is like. I know also what it takes to be like this. This doesn't happen because people do not create the circumstances in which this can happen, in which this will happen. Yes, occasionally people have a moment of happiness, a moment of peacefulness, a moment of togetherness, friendliness, a moment of real togetherness and real cooperation. But people do not embody their language. When they speak, they do not listen to themselves. To the contrary, they want other people to listen to them. Either that, or they are trying very hard to listen to others. Yeah, so there's two things. Either we try to make others listen to us, or we are trying very hard to listen to others. We are basically always listening to others, but not to ourselves. Yeah? So we're either busy trying to get others to listen to us and we are not listening to ourselves, or we are trying to listen to others and we're still not listening to ourselves. Oh, that's how that is. And that's why listening to yourself is such a revolutionary act. It really is. It is something so transformative. Talking out loud with yourself and listening to yourself. If you do that, you will suddenly realize like, wow, I should be able to talk like this with other people. But when you are honest with yourself, you realize that you never talk like that with other people. You can't talk like that with other people. Not because it is impossible, but because other people don't talk like that. The embodied language which you are expressing when you listen to yourself is of course also possible with others, but only if they too listen to themselves. How could I say this if I'm just making this up? How could I claim this? Because I also just claim, I'm not really claiming anything, but I insist that this is how it works. Yeah? If we all listen to ourselves, we are going to have a very, very different conversation than the one we have ever had. Why? Because we are in touch with our own experience in embodied language. We will express ourselves with a language which fits with our experience. That is unheard of. Unheard of because we are used to disembodied language. Language in which our experience is actually secondary to our words. So our words do not really match with our experience in disembodied language. We talk and we talk and we talk, or we pay a lot of attention to what other people have said. We read and we read and we listen to podcasts or to the news and to the radio or whatever, to the TV, to other people who are experts and who supposedly know something. But our own experience is completely, you could say, left behind due to the way in which we deal with language. Only when we listen to our own sound while we speak do we begin to express language, embodied language, which connects with our experience. We speak from experience. And as you can tell in my explanation, in my expression, it is something totally positive. It is positive, it is powerful, it is meaningful, it is magnificent, it's energizing. So, if you step back a little bit, when we do not have what I call embodied language, when we have disembodied language, we endlessly talk about our negative experiences. Oh, I feel so frustrated. Oh, I feel so upset. Oh, I feel so stressed out. Oh, I feel so fearful. Oh, I feel so worried. Oh, I feel so confused. Yet, we are not connecting with our experience. We are endlessly in a form of verbal diarrhea expressing our negativity. With our disembodied language, once we begin to listen to ourselves, all the negativity subsides. Once we listen to ourselves, it's almost like as if we turn a switch. We all of a sudden start to feel positive. And yes, as we are positive in our embodied language, we can begin to speak about the problems that were created and maintained by our disembodied language. And yes, we sound totally positive. We may cry. We may mourn the loss of time, of opportunity, the loss of connection with people, because we have wasted forever time, energy, people, resources. We have wasted so much on disembodied language. And now, as we listen to ourselves, we finally have our feet on the ground. We finally hear ourselves. We finally come to our senses. We finally, for instance, are able to acknowledge that we feel hurt, that we feel lost, that we feel sad, that we feel like we have failed, that we feel sad, that we feel rejected, that we feel terrible, that we feel so completely off. How could we get so far away from ourselves? How could we be such strangers to ourselves? And to discover that is painful. But as we talk with ourselves, with embodied language, we accept that pain. We accept that sadness. We acknowledge the fact that we were lost. We acknowledge that we were completely torn apart, confused, fragmented. We were all over the map. But because we have embodied language, we finally become centered. We finally get our bearing. We finally can give words to our experiences in such a way that our experiences truly matter. Yeah, that is embodied language. It is a magnificent phenomenon, and yet nobody does it. I know what it is. You can talk with me, and then perhaps if you talk with me long enough, if you listen to me long enough, if you begin to, of course, listen to yourself and begin to experience what it is that I'm talking about and begin to express what it is what I'm talking about, yeah, then you will be able to not learn it, but you will be able to let yourself know that you are also capable of this. All right. Well, I believe I have explained it very well, and I just want to give you some time now to sort of absorb what it is that I have said. Just give yourself permission to be still. Give yourself permission to look at me and to feel me and to experience together with me what has been created by what I have just explained and said, what I have just addressed. There's a result of what I have said, and that result can now be obtained, can now become clear by just not saying anything anymore, by just being quiet, because I've said what I wanted to say today. When I discovered the difference between my own disembodied language and my own embodied language, I wasn't yet fully aware about how long it was going to take or how difficult it was going to be to stop my own conditioning with disembodied language. And now, yeah, I discovered this in my 20s, early 20s. And now I'm 65. And yeah, I'm a bit older, but I realize what a big deal this is. Just because even though it has taken me this long, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you can do it. I can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And everything that has happened in the meantime, but also for you, once you begin to have that conversation with yourself, you will realize that everything matters, everything has meaning, and you give it meaning with your embodied language.